Alright. It's been a while since I have done one of these. I mean, it's been kind of on and off. I mean, I've been doing a lot of Minecraft Create to take a break from Space Engineers. I mean, ideally you don't want to burn out by working on the same project over and over, so it's good that at least I'm doing something. I'm getting a lot of pings. Um, let's see here. But since the last time I did a stream on this scenario, there has been a lot of changes, and I will be going over those changes in a moment here. There's quite a few things. All right, let me go ahead and drag this over here. All right, so I'm gonna go over a lot of the things that I've done in this scenario. So there's quite a few things. Hmm. All right, so where do I even like go with this? Oh, and the last time I showed you guys what I was working on here, we were working on the various mechs for the scenario, and there are actually a decent amount of exosuits. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 different exosuits right now, and that's cool and all, but it's not enough for this scenario because the exosuits only work uh, for like smaller kind of combat. And we do want to scale up a little bit so that way people will get something that's more reminiscent of Titanfall. The exosuits aren't fast enough to really keep up with that, nor are they bulky enough to actually be able to survive, since they do get taken out fairly easily if you know what you're doing. Now, the map itself has had a lot of changes. As you can see, we've actually added stuff to the LCDs around the place. We've added lights inside the buildings, so things are actually a lot easier to see when you're playing. Other changes are these cranes, which actually allow your player to parkour between buildings. And of course, little like beams and stuff coming out, so you can actually use those to parkour around. And we want this kind of fluid movement in the scenario, so that way you're able to actually, you know, move around. Ideally, you don't want to be too stagnant in this scenario because stagnant combat isn't really super entertaining for players unless they're aiming to use a sniper rifle. Most players kind of want to run around, they want to explore, they want to kind of feel like the rush of like parkour and stuff like that. And that's something that is definitely an emphasis in like a lot of these like shooter games, especially nowadays. It's become kind of like a point in lots of these games. Yeah, being able to parkour between buildings like this is something that's interesting. Another thing I've added is these red crates around the place, which have these med kits, which allow players to heal, and these are kind of just scattered around the map if you know where you're looking. And it is something that is really useful. That's something you do have to be careful about, as you can't just fall through gaps and stuff. Let's see. So any other changes have been done to the map? These cranes do serve a secondary function, which I will get into. So these mechs actually have these grappling hooks, and these grappling hooks are something that are very useful. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the previous version of the scenario that I was working on. But these grappling hooks are important because they allow you to move around to
Fuel
your mechs.
critical.
The problem is there's not enough vertical space to be able to make use of these grappling hooks. So these cranes allow your mechs to actually get around the map a lot easier. So let's go ahead and get like, I don't know, like a rocket launcher mech, just to give you an idea of how these cranes work. So you have your mech here, right? They'll spawn in, I'll go ahead and close up like this, and let me go and make sure these are on. So that you're familiar with how these work. Of course, if you see a crane or something above you and you want to grab onto it, what you can actually do is you can hold shift, and you can actually grab onto it to lift you up onto these buildings, giving you that kind of verticality that you would want. And that's something that is really nice about this scenario. You can actually be able to get onto these buildings, which is neat. It makes mechs more useful than just a big tank on the ground that dies instantly from a single rocket launcher. With this, you can actually, you can get onto rooftops and you can actually like surprise attack people and stuff, and it makes mechs a lot more useful. Now, these mechs have these thrusters, and these thrusters, they help a little bit with walking, but they're not used for walking. They're actually used in midair, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's grab onto this over here. These thrusters allow you to maneuver in midair to be able to control where you're going and allow you to actually swing while you're using the grappling hook. And that allows you to basically do stuff like this. And if you have enough skill, you can actually, go Spider-Man between all of these different things, which is really neat and interesting. That is something that I do like about this scenario. It will give you the ability to do that, which is something that is necessary. Are there any other
Fuel
changes I've done to
critical.
the exosuits? I mean, look at the exosuits themselves. They do look nice. They have their armor. They have little gaps in their armor to make sure that they can work properly with all the different animations that they've got. Their balancing system works with their backpack, which is great. They've got these little details here. The thing is, because of the way their armor works, they do get taken out very easily by a rocket launcher. A single shot from a rocket launcher can easily disable an exosuit, and it is intentional. Now, of course, looking at the different animations here, of course, you have your grappling animation, you have your aiming animation, right? But of course, you also have a reload animation. And of course, that reload animation is mainly for your first-person view like this, because every single mech has its own unique reload animation. And these animations should play automatically when you're working on these mechs in combat. So basically, occasionally they
Fuel
will reload
critical.
animation as you fire enemies. And that's something that is really neat and interesting. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove this mech. That's fun and all, but I do want to go over some other mechanics. So in the maps, there are actually 3 of these spawn zones here. So one here, there's one in the middle of the map over here, and one all the way over here. These little spawn zones aren't for players, but they're for mechs. Now, in order to make sure that this scenario flows in a really interesting way, I want mechs to be a priority focus of the scenario, but I don't want them to be the focus to where you always have to spawn in a mech. Because again, you want to make sure combat is fluid, and these mechs can be very janky sometimes. Maybe people don't want to use a mech. So people will be using handguns, but they have the option to go to one of these pads, and they have a chance of finding a mech there. And when they find a mech, it's actually going to be a completely random mech that already has ammo and grapple hooks and everything in it, and it should be able to spawn in. You can use it, and you can go ahead and go into the battle. And they're not always going to be there. It's going to be pretty random. And I explained the mechanic about how that works. Now, I think I've already demonstrated this system here where you respawn, it randomly selects your weapon, you respawn here, right? However, there is a secondary system. So this pad here is actually part of the secondary system, and that system is for the mechs themselves. The mechs spawn in a way similarly to the players in a way. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the stream. I'm just explaining the mechanics of this scenario that I've worked on since the last stream. So this mechanism here that looks a little bit complicated, it has all these timers and everything, and these little teleportation pads here. The purpose of this is to actually assemble the mechs. it has a timer system here that will activate based on like when the match starts. And it is going to build a mech roughly every 2 to 5 minutes. I believe that's the time it's set up. Let me check the time. Yeah, 2 minutes. So every 2 minutes, it is going to run a program here that is going to randomly trigger one of the timers that builds a mech here. When a mech is built, it's going to be built via the instant projection system onto this pad. It's then going to activate a timing system to drop ammunition and grapple hook ammunition onto the mech, and it has a system to pick up that ammunition. Once it's done with that, it's actually going to teleport to this pad over here. And once it is on this pad, it is going to activate another randomization script there that is going to randomly assign which pad it is going to spawn at. Now, one thing we did find from testing is that if you already have a mech on a pad and a mech teleports to a pad, you end up with a weird thing where the mechs teleport inside of each other and they just can't move or anything because they're stuck. To prevent that, each of these pads has a sensor that's going to detect if there's a mech already on this pad. If there is a mech on the pad, it's actually going to be sending a signal via the action relay. To that, it will turn off the timer for that pad, preventing it from teleporting to the pad because there's already a mech on it. If all the pads have a mech, it's actually going to send a signal to this to tell it to stop building mechs until a pad is free. Once a pad is free, it will go ahead and start building mechs again. So there's that system. It works great. I can actually demonstrate it right now. So let's go and pick a random one. I don't know, let's go for like this one here. This is the Nucleon, so shotgun mech. So right here, you have this. And once this timer here starts, right, let's say it's triggered by the randomization script over there, it's going to go ahead and build it just like so. It doesn't have ammunition, but it does have grappling hook. So that grappling hook is going to go ahead and deploy ammo, which you'll see here. See? Just like that, it teleports, and it's going to teleport to that pad, where it then gets teleported again to a random pad over here. And did it end up on that one? It didn't end up on that one, it ended up on this one over here. So this is what will happen in this scenario. You have the sensor that is going to detect the mech and send a signal over there saying this pad is already being used. Right here, you have a fully active mech. All you have to do is go up to it and get into it in this scenario, and it is fully working right off the bat. It has a working grappling hook, which you can use. And of course, you can aim, you can fire it, and of course, it has its reload animation that goes with it. So that already works well. Now, this scenario does need a couple more things. I did recently do a fix or a patch where all of the mechs using energy ammunition, or just no ammunition in general, I've actually set them up so that way they can recharge their weapons faster, because that was an issue. Now, moving on, today I'm going to be working on the next size of mech, which is not going to be these exosuits, but it's actually going to be more like a Titan-sized mech, which is going to be this mech here. I've already built the frame off camera. It took a while to get to work, but it does look fantastic, and I based it off of mechanisms from previous mechs I've built that are not related to the scenario. So of course this Titanfall type mech here is definitely smaller and more realistically scaled, but it is using a lot of the same mechanics and using a lot of lessons I've learned from here. Now, one thing I've learned is that a mech of this size, you can't get into it from the ground because of how tall it is. Also, the weight kind of tends to cause that to shake and buckle, which is not great, so you want to have something that is smaller and more sturdy, which is where this comes in. Now, this has the backpack system that the previous mechs used, but it's a different system where instead of having a backpack like the exosuits, it has enough space where it's actually able to fit the system underneath here and protect it better, so that's actually properly armored. And it doesn't look out of place, which is perfect. No more vulnerable backpack, it's actually a really durable mech now. Now, other mechanics, this mech is larger, and because it's larger, it actually has an extra joint that helps it with its maneuverability of its arms. Now, I haven't set up any arm animations yet, so it's kind of stuck in this position, but it is able to move its arms more freely than the exosuits, which means the animations will be easier to create. when you get into the mech, it's actually already set up. So let's say you're a player here, you kind of just like want to like try to like squeeze in somewhere, like jumping up into it. You can't just get into it like this, but once you get into it, it will actually do this. And you can see this is your first person view in this mech. Now what's nice about this view, unlike the exosuit where your player head is kind of sticking out, in this mech you are fully protected. And I mean you are actually fully protected. Your player is not showing at all, which means that you have a lot more protection and you don't have to worry about being shot out of the cockpit anymore. That also means that this mech is significantly more durable. And I'm actually going to demonstrate that in a moment here. So let's get out of this mech so we can crouch into its thing. We're going to actually go to make a copy of it. And we're going to go ahead and throw it right over here. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and get, let's see, timer hatch. Let's go and activate that. And we're going to go ahead and get a rocket launcher. Just one of these. Now, do I have any rockets? I have 2 rocket launchers. I need rockets. Let me go and spawn one in. Rocket. This one. We're going to go ahead and see how durable this mech is. So let's say you're a player in the cockpit of this mech. We're going to shoot it right in the cockpit there. Well, if damage is on. Whoops. Now, sure, this thing took damage, which is normal. But one thing I want to show you is that while it did take damage, let's go ahead and go into here. While the mech did take damage, the cockpit is still perfectly functional. The entire mech is fully working, even after taking a rocket directly. Which means that this mech is actually durable enough to fight in combat a lot more effectively than the previous iteration. And that is something that is kind of terrifying. I mean, just having a mech that can take a rocket launcher directly is really something. Now, the weapon itself doesn't have any armor or anything yet, so of course it was going to break, but that is just a placeholder weapon for the meantime. I will be working on the weapons. Now, one thing I do want to demonstrate is the speed comparison of these mechs. So, of course, a small exosuit. It has a fairly decent speed, moving around 5 meters per second sometimes. Of course, if the AI was actually active, it would balance. There we go. There we go. Not bad. It's around 4 or 5 meters per second. It's not too bad. It kind of shuffles around. But the larger mech over here is actually more capable of moving around the map, which is something that I want to emphasize with the larger mechs. They are way more capable of traveling. So as you can see here, you have similar speeds. However, it's a lot more stable, and you actually feel the weight of it moving. And you can definitely feel the difference in its movement, especially as you're moving diagonally. It does actually work a lot better. The walking feels more fluid and more natural, which is great. And all the systems here do work as intended. You can look up and down, which is fine. We just need to actually create the animations and the weapons for this mech. But overall, it does work nicely, and I do like that it has a digitigrade style of leg, rather than the normal plantigrade style that the other mech uses. There we go. Critical. So, that's cool. What other things did I learn from these mechs I'm kind of putting into there? Well, this mech has the balancing system built into the middle here or something? No, it's down there. So I was using lessons from that to bring it over. There were a couple other things I was trying to figure out how to use here, but I don't think these mechs are necessary anymore because I've already got the systems I needed for them. The only thing that's actually missing now is I need to actually make the weapon here work. and that's gonna take a little bit. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and start working on that. Oh yeah, one before work on the mechs, I do want to talk about the progression of the scenario and changes to the plans I have for the scenario. So, you know, in order to make the scenario functional within a reasonable time frame, I'm gonna be working with the exosuit weapons, which are already done here. It's all good, but I'm also gonna be working on these titans, right? Which are gonna be here. Now, the larger mechs, I'm actually not gonna be adding the mecha and the Jaegers. I'm not gonna be adding those bigger mechs because of a couple of reasons. Um, Having a whole lot of projections like this can cause issues for people trying to join the world, especially if there's a lot of them. So I want to kind of minimize that. And I do want, because this is a PvP focused scenario, you do want there to be an emphasis on performance, which you can see in the top left, it is at 1.0 sim speed. The more stuff we add, the lower that sim speed gets, which is really bad for a FPS type scenario. So you want things to work well. So I'm only going to be making these two classes of mech here, which is fine. These two sizes actually work well with the scale of that city. Um, I'm not going to be adding those. The kill streaks I'm probably not going to add. I thought about adding them, but the thing is it's a lot of complexity that I don't think is necessary for this scenario. But one thing I will be doing is I'll be building two more PvP maps with a random selection system and a lobby where you can select which map you want to play. Then what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to focus on building a campaign into this scenario. So you have the multiplayer and you have a single player campaign that goes with it. And I think that is enough content for the scenario to be enjoyable, to kind of feel like its own game. I don't know. You guys can probably let me know if that's too much, but I think that should be enough to make sure that people enjoy the scenario. Just having the multiplayer, shoot at each other with a time limit, and then the single player where you actually follow a story using these mechs. I think that would be interesting. I'm still working out the details of the story, but um, I do have a rough draft for what that is, but that'll take some time to build. For now, I'm going to go ahead and work on building this. Let's raise up that. Oh, and I want this to be a reasonable size. It doesn't look very big, so I gotta work on this.
Fuel critical.
We want something like this so we can actually collect ammunition. I'm gonna have to look up some examples here. this is a twin gun with a barrel like that, but I do want it to kind of feel like it's something the mech can use reasonably and look cool. So I gotta like mess with it a bit. Now in terms of reload, it does need some kind of system. So what's gonna need to happen is we're gonna remove this, remove these, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a rotor. So I gotta actually build the reload system onto this. And of course we're gonna have to add like some timers here for the reload system somewhere. Let's see. So there's that. That should be able to rotate. Or do something kind of like this. Not like that, which is fine. Let's go ahead, do this, and let's do like, I don't know, let's say it's like a magazine that's like right here. Problem is that will end up colliding with this, which means that this needs to be built in a way where it won't collide. So something like that, which gives it some wiggle room. And I want the magazine to be a certain size, so we're going to do this. And from here we can actually build this there. This can be here to put ammo directly into the weapon, which seems fine, but it might need a cargo container. Or does it go directly in? I can go directly in, I just gotta see how much ammo it's gonna hold. How many can you hold? 5. So it needs a cargo container, or else it won't have enough ammo to actually do anything. Interesting. Has ammo, right? That's weird. So this was... Okay, it is working. It's just, like, suppressor, I guess. Kinda weird. Okay, so yeah, this does work as intended. You can see the animation there looks fine, we just need to actually make the weapon look better. Which there's a couple ways of doing it. I'm just gonna check if there's any building points onto this. Nothing
Fuel
here, but I can
critical.
definitely put something here. But I don't want to do that just about yet. I want to make this look nice. So let's go ahead and take a look here. There's different shrouds you can mess with here to make it look nice. What I'm thinking is we can put this somewhere here to make it look really cool. Like right there. That'd look good. See, something like this would be cool. Something like that's nice. Something like that would also be nice. Something like that fits it perfectly as well. But of course we do need to, do this. Let's actually see what it looks like with those. And of course we do have to deal with the car container issue. Not bad. I like that one though, because that looks sleek and fits it really nicely. But there's also the other one, which needs to go one more forward, but it looks like this. Which I think also looks nice to a degree. I gotta figure out which one probably fits best for this. As nice as these are, I really like this one because it keeps it... Ooh, this might actually be the perfect one right here. I just need to figure out how to build that. So let's keep this shroud here. And in order to get this working, we do need to move stuff around. And this thing is probably going to get bigger, so that's fine. So now that has enough ammunition to work. Right. Oh, the collector can hold it. If the collector can hold it, then that's not an issue. Yeah, as long as the collector holds it, that means we can keep the whole thing compact, which means that we can save a lot of space on this. Because I don't want this to be too big. The problem with it being too big is that if it's too big, it'll take up a lot of space, which means you'll have a hard time spawning. And we do want to keep this reasonably sized. We do have to manually drag it, which is okay. If you had a cargo container, then moving to the cargo container send moves into the thing. That's interesting to know. That might actually help with the designs of some other mechs that were having issues. That includes things like the, what's it called? This one, the SRM, and the other one, which is the, what's it called? Hold on, exosuit. This should be one. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's called the Cord. There we go. This one has the same issue. We have to pull ammo manually, but the reason why is because you need cargo storage. Which makes sense to an extent. But if we can fix that issue just by adding a cargo container, then that is helpful to know. I just have to
Fuel
look at these and
critical.
figure out if it's actually doable reasonably. I don't know if I want to do that though. It's such like a small thing. And you know, just going into the inventory and pulling ammunition manually isn't too bad, but I'm not sure. I guess that's fine. It keeps it compact, so we're good with that. Now, as for adding this, in order to add this properly, we need to add some stuff on here, which is going to be tricky. Now, if this is here, it still has issues with this area over here. So I'm going to get a shroud, and we're going to see if we can use it to cover this part up a little better. We could do a combination where we put one shroud here. We put a... If we go to the contact ground systems here, there should be these. Should we grab this so we can actually see them here? It'd be cool to have this right here, but there's other options. So this would be nice, but I don't know. This could also be interesting. Now the question is, do we want this or this? I kind of like the way this one looks. So if we put that one there, that can be our scope of sorts, which we're going to flip the other way. So it looks like you can look through it from there. Then what's going to happen from here is we're going to need to get this, and we attach it right here. And now we have that, which already looks pretty cool. So at the same time, we could go an extra step and use something else. There are these, which for this style of weapon, I'm not sure. Could we do a combination maybe? It's not really a sniper rifle though. Well, there's that. This is covering up the rotor. Oh, no, yeah, the rotor is covered up by other things around the place. Over here, the rotor seems to be exposed. So I want to see if there's a way I can cover up that rotor using a, where is it? A mantlets. We could put a centered mantlet right here to make it look like it goes through that rotor. That makes the whole weapon feel more connected, like so. So that's already a major improvement. Now the other thing I want to deal with is this lower section here, which has some issues it needs to deal with. I want to see if I can add more here to the weapon. I'm not sure if I can. If I add like half mantlet plates here, it'd be cool. See something like this? But we can also do this. There's a couple issues with that. One, that makes it look really off, because that's square right there. So if we remove that, that seems more reasonable. But this part here is where things are weird, so I want to figure this part out. remove that, and maybe they don't really have a mantlet that fits that, unfortunately.
Fuel critical.
When they have this, which should be perfect. Just have to see, do they have a centered one? That's cool, it's just, it might collide with that, so we need something there. Something that won't collide with that as much, so let's see what we can do. This can't be that, it has to be something else. My worry is if I put this here, it might end up colliding with this, but I think that's fine. If anything, what I can do is I can make this part of this ammunition, like this. Actually, the ammo can be more like this. So it squeezes right in between there, and this part here can be more like that. Then from here, we can just slap this on, and that completes the look of that. Now this rear area here looks a bit funny. I know I've solved it for some of these other ones by doing some interesting things, but I just want to see how I've done it for some of the other ones. Okay, so if I do an action relay here, we might actually be able to get it to work. Let's remove that. Let's see if we can repaste it. Does not allow us to repaste. That's okay. I have a solution. So first, let's go ahead and make sure that this lower limit's 0, upper limit 0. That's fine. Now we're gonna get some merge blocks, and we're gonna go and get an arm thingy here.
Fuel critical. Fuel critical.
Okay, so now that I have that, that's all connected. Something about this, it looks okay, but it's like missing something. I don't know what that something is. I think this part here needs to be replaced with something else. It needs something that, like, fits it better. I think one thing I can do is that. That'll make it look better. Yeah, at least it kind of looks like he's holding it a bit better, which is fine. I'll just see what it looks like in first person. All these are inertia tensors, except for the main one, so that's fine. In terms of first person is a little bit heavy, but that's okay. It doesn't look bad, which is
Fuel
cool.
critical.
It just needs some more on it. Let's see, piston, like that. Cover that side. That looks a little better. Let's say this side is something more like this. Which means I'm going to need the merge block again. But it should make the whole thing look just a little bit better.
Fuel critical. Fuel critical.
There we go, that looks a lot better. Looks smoother going forward. I know that the mech itself needs a little more armor around here, which if you attack it from the side, like, if you hit the armor should be fine. If you hit the body here, it might break some stuff, but that's okay, that's intentional. Now this antenna here is temporary. We'll work on the back and what it looks like eventually. But right now I just need this part. So I can start doing the whole animation system. Let's actually work on the back real quick. Just so I can get that part done. Don't want to use light armor for the body, we want to use heavy armor. And right here, let's just do a panel like this. The exposed reactor is fine. If anything, we should protect it just a little bit. There isn't much I can do to that. Maybe a light? Yeah, I think it's fine as is. Exposed reactor isn't much of a problem. If someone shoots that, then the whole mech goes down, which is more or less a feature. And over here, you can kind of do the same thing, if you're lucky. Over here, it's more exposed, which is fine. It's more of a weak spot for a bigger mech. You don't want the mechs to be too powerful, because then that just causes balancing issues. You know, it's not too fun when someone has all the power and no one else can do anything about it. Okay, let's see what we can do here. It's been a while since I've done the animations using the animation maker script. So I need to find where that is. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So we have the animation maker script here. And the thing about the animation maker script is that all the limbs have to be named. So if I go here and look at the arms, they're no longer named arm. They have specific names, which I gotta go find. Yeah, so elbow, shoulder, wrist, right? But they have move on them.
Fuel critical.
So I gotta go and add that. this is gonna be painful. Okay, so I gotta get all these, and I have to go ahead and name these appropriately.
Fuel critical.
So we have right shoulder, A, and then B.
Fuel critical.
I'm going to name them A, and this is gonna be shoulder B. Then this right here is gonna be elbow. So now that we have that, we can do this, and we can go through all these and set them up. So move 1, right? Move 2, move 3, move 4, move 5, move 6, move 7, move 8, move 9, move 10, as we move 11. So now this program block is now going to recognize all those arms as, you know, fully working things. So what needs to happen is we gotta move all of this into an aiming position where we can physically aim properly. Problem is with this weapon, I don't actually know how to make it aim properly,
Fuel
so I'm
critical.
gonna need some help. This is gonna be our little helper, which is gonna help us to aim. See, right there he shoots himself, which is not what we want. We want him to do this a little bit differently. We want him to aim forward. So let's try that and see if I can get him to aim. There we go. This isn't doing any DPS, right? DPS is 0, perfect. So what we need is we need that laser to go ahead and make this thing aim upwards a bit better. So let's see here. Not bad, but we need it to be better. Okay, so there's that. Pretty dang close. This is to rotate the whole thing. But I want to rotate the whole arm just a bit more, so let's see. So right shoulder, move 3, you're gonna move just a little bit, so a limit of 10. Let's go velocity. Close, but not quite where I want it to be. Let's move it up a little bit higher, because you want to be accurate. So say our crosshair is aiming right there. This should be like almost perfectly on it, which it's very close to. Problem is, if I line this up directly on the red, right? That laser means it's there, which means it's actually a little more to the right. It's close enough. So if I enable damage, I'm hitting right there, perfectly. That's good enough. So I'm definitely able to hit there, right? Problem is that now that I have that, we need to lock it in place to make sure all this doesn't move, right? That's in place. You are actually in a weird angle. Hold on. Yeah, you are way off. Hold on. That means something here needs to move you. So you're fine. This is the one that's weird. What about you? You are already at an angle, and this you're already at an angle. It's just this one here. Aim at the red. Does it hit the red? It's like ever so slightly off. Like if I'm to aim right there, it's gonna aim to the side of it, but that's okay because that actually means it's aligned because the laser is to the left of it, which is what we want. Now what we need is we need the left arm to hold the weapon in place. So let's see what we can do about that. So you are okay, you are fine, you're okay. One left. This one. we could do is we can move that shoulder right there. That's great. How does this look like in first person? Don't really see the arm, it's not really holding enough. Okay, let's see. Okay. Left. So there's that, which is fine. But then from there, this needs to move up. But from here, this is what you see. And that's going to be animation 1. Let's make sure that all the left things are in the right position. So you need to create a default animation, which is going to be the animation of him just holding things, right? And let me try to remember the... Okay, so let's run the argument start for creating a new animation. Run. Then it's photo. We have to run this twice. Run. Run. Then it's save. I don't think I have any of these set up. That's fine. If we get out,
critical.
so you'll just move things out of the way, which is fine. The thing is, I have to set up all the animation things on here. Where's timer? Shoot you. It's gonna be shoot. Oh no, that's it. Okay. So you're gonna be left click. You are gonna be press release. There we go. So now whenever I click, it's fine. It's all good. Now what I can do is I can go here, if I go into custom data, it should have an animation, see? One animation. And I have to create the aiming
Fuel
animation to go
critical.
with it. And the aiming animation is going to be a little bit more difficult because I have to move this weapon now in line with first person and have this arm hold it. Which is going to be just a little bit more difficult to do. So first things first, let's go ahead and move this arm out of the way. Let shoulder be reverse. And we have to move this to line up with our main body here, which is going to be a little bit difficult. First, we need shoulder B here to move like over here. And we have a lot to do. Okay, so let's have this one move up. Let's move this up to -45, just so you have that. And then this one, let's move you over to 20 degrees inwards. That gets it pretty close to the middle, which is really good already. Now you. It's actually almost lined up, which is cool. Let's make you want 20 degrees. Now you're like more straight, right? Problem is you're aiming up, which is not what we want. See, it's aiming up, so that's not what we want. We want this to go higher, but we want that to go lower, which means the right elbow needs to go lower. Where's the wrist? I turned the wrist laying down a bit, so it's aiming at the red there. Or, yeah, it's aiming at the red already. The problem is that the sight isn't lining up. Problem is, if I do that, it's aiming up into the sky instead of where I need to go. So that means that this wrist needs to move more. A lot of fine tuning to make sure it looks right, but can actually aim properly. Because this is lined up to an extent, but it isn't. So while that's lined up, the sight isn't. So the wrist needs to move more so. That makes the aim up, which is not what we want. I think the elbow needs to move down a little more. Allow damage and see if that's lined up. Aiming high. Let's get a little bit closer. It's still a little high though. I think it's like one of those middle ones over there. That's actually like spot on. That seems to work well. Now that I have that,
Fuel
I just have all
critical.
the animations for aiming, right? So aim and aim 2, right? So aim 2. It has animations, just doesn't want to play them. Does it not recognize any of the limbs? I forgot the script is case sensitive, which means it didn't memorize anything that we just did because all of these are capitals instead of lowercase. I gotta redo all that all over again. And now everything's in its default position again, and now I have to set up those animations again. Okay, hold on. Set. Run. Now to set that all up again. Make sure everything's moving order, right? All of those limits. Don't want it to wobble out of place. Okay, close enough. Let's see. How does this look from this perspective? You can definitely see the hand moving across. Doesn't seem to hit too much. Let's see, left. Yeah, everything's in position. So now that we have that, that's our first animation. And now we need our second animation, which is going to be the other one. Okay. So close. It's aiming too far down. We need to make it aim up, which means the elbow needs to go up. And the shoulder needs to move down. The whole thing's out of alignment again. Hmm. I mean, yeah, that works. Why is this so low? Oh, it's close enough. Okay, now I have something that looks like this, which is fantastic. A little jump as well. Overall, this is working well.
Fuel critical.
I have to add an extra animation for the other one. When you get in and out of mech, it's gonna go ahead and like open up, move the arms out of the way. Might do that right now.
Fuel critical. Fuel critical. Fuel critical.
Not bad.
Fuel
It's
critical.
working exactly as intended. Doesn't have a grappling hook yet. I don't even think it has the timers for that. Yeah, it doesn't have timers for that.
Fuel
It also needs
critical.
timers for the weapon systems that are going to go in this arm as well.
Fuel critical.
The aiming system no longer needs that.
Fuel
Harpoon seems to block his
critical.
vision a bit. So I'm gonna move it to the other side.
Fuel critical.
So like that, it's just out of the way, which is perfect. Adding that collector is going to be a bit difficult, but it should be doable. Technically speaking, I just had it like this. Just completely out of the way.
Fuel critical.
Alright.
Fuel critical.
Hmm. Should the harpoon be on this side here? From here you can see it.
Fuel critical.
I like debating where I should put the timers. I do need those to be fairly well protected. So if I do that, it ends up right there, which is fine. It's a decent spot where it doesn't get in the way of anything.
Fuel critical. Fuel critical.
not too bad. Because looking at this here means that the timer's there, at least relatively protected. To an extent, but I don't know. It's not fully convincing me.
Fuel critical.
These are 3
Fuel
Harpoon
critical.
cannon blocks.
Fuel critical.
You do this and it becomes like a little shield down there, which would be interesting. If it's like a little shield part there that does defend that lower section there, it's also just really weird. And the good news is it doesn't get in the way of anything, seemingly.
Fuel critical.
Okay, so that should be a decent enough tower placement. I could put some more armor on that. Technically speaking, we could just do that, and that'll work.
Fuel critical. Fuel critical.
Alright, that seems to work pretty good so far. Now, what's next? Now I need to set up even more timers, and I want to set the whole reloading system as well, because that part's really cool. But it's going to be a little bit difficult to do. What I need to do is I need to position the arms in a way where this arm can grab this, and then it's going to detach using those two timers to go and like pull it out and put it back in. To do that whole animation. Then after that, we're going to need to set the harpoon, which has like 3 different timers set up. And I think there's some other timers on here, right? Timers. There's a whole lot of timers on here that aren't named, but let's go name them right now.
Fuel critical.
So far, so good. Alright, so we have all of this. Let's start to set up a couple more systems. And then that'll just be like the first swap, and then I gotta make all the other ones. There's gonna be a Gatling, an autocannon, an actual cannon, railgun, shotgun, flamethrower, big laser. Instead of laser blades, I'm gonna make it a beam sword. Especially because it's big enough for that. Let me see if there's anything else up here that I would probably want to use. Yeah, I think I'll be fine. Yeah, I do want to make a variant of this that just has a big old sword with it, because I think it'd be cool to have one of these just holding a sword. Definitely doable. I can do the animations with it to make it a lot better. So that'll be interesting, to see it at least. Oh boy, this is going to be difficult to set up in some ways, but that's okay. I might look around to see if there's anything else here that I could use. I wish I could make the interior a little more decorated, but there isn't really much I can do about that.
Fuel
Actually,
critical.
there is something I can do about that. Where is it? Console. Doesn't really give you a lot. And it does kind of just block your vision, is all it
Fuel
really does.
critical.
It's not bad, though. The only thing it'll do is just decrease the armor that you have overall. That's not a bad thing. It does make your field of view more clean, which is something I like, so I might keep this. Oh yeah, it makes it look a lot more clean, which is something I do like.
Fuel critical.
Make this something like this. I just want to see what it looks like. If I just replace that with a different block. Okay, so it makes the top look like that, which makes your vision just a little bit
Fuel
different. To
critical.
be honest, we need something that's like full to make that look right. That's a nice interior detail shot from there. And from the outside, it looks fine. On the inside, this is what you get, which is really neat. It's this very like sci-fi-esque kind of view, almost like a helmet of sorts, which I think is neat. I like this.
Fuel critical. Fuel critical.
I have an idea.
Fuel critical.
Okay, that'll work nicely. So when it spawns in there, it's just gonna fall down like that. And that makes it way easier to get in. Let's just do this. Oh, that's so cool.
Fuel critical.
And you get out the whole thing just leans forward. Just in the bad things. Just makes it way easier to get in. Oh, that's so cool. Right.
Fuel critical. Fuel critical.
I do like how the legs fold up as well when it crouches down. Alright. So all I have to do is just set up some more animations, which if I look at the timers here, how many animations are there? There's a whole reload sequence, which actually takes... That's 3 timers, right? There's 3 harpoon timers, right? Aim timers already have set up. And there's the ammo timers, which I have to set up as well.
Fuel critical.
Everything that's on a subgrid should ideally be set in a group. Because timers can't communicate with each other when they are spawned in and they're just trying to set each other up on a toolbar. They remove each other. So if you set a group, it activates everything in that group, which makes it work. Progress is slow, but I am making progress, which is great. This is good enough for now, though. I might just take a break from this. And I'll probably continue working on it off camera and try to get more of it done. Hopefully next time I do one of these streams, I can go ahead and show you guys all the progress with these medium-sized mechs, especially how they work in the map as well. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.